What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to a new week. We have some interesting action over here on the price charts for Bitcoin and the altcoin market, and then we also have a little bit of drama going on over there with SBF, or Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX, and CZ Binance, the CEO of Binance, the largest exchange in the world for the cryptocurrency market, essentially announcing that he's going to be selling nearly $2 billion worth of FTT coin, which, as you probably know, Binance has Binance coin, and then FTX has FTT coin. And really, every week over here on Twitter, Sam Bankman-Fried posts, it's that time of the week again, where they're buying back a bunch of FTT token. All of this drama emerged within 24 hours after hitting the 200-week moving average over here for the altcoin market. John Deaton over there on Twitter says, I took a couple of days off from Twitter. What recent revelations? Any links? As CZ Binance says, as part of Binance's exit from FTX equity last year, Binance received roughly 2.1 billion USD equivalent in cash, BUSD, and FTT. Due to recent revelations that have come to light, we have decided to liquidate any remaining FTT on our books. So John says, I took a couple of days off. What are the recent revelations? Any links? And of course, as we always talk about, the puppet master's pulling the puppet strings. God, simulation, whatever you want to call it. Well, we hit the 200-day moving average for the first time after being under it for 7 months. And within 24 hours after doing so, the drama begins on a Sunday. Not weird. So what are the big concerns out there of why Binance is liquidating all of their FTT token? Well, I'm not an expert on all of it. I've done just kind of the same thing everybody else has done, going around. I've listened to spaces. I've read threads of what people are writing. Essentially, there's a lot of concern on whether or not the FTT token will become insolvent if there's a margin call level that happens if the price goes below $22. CZ Binance does say we'll try to do so in a way that minimizes market impact. Due to market conditions and limited liquidity, we expect this will take a few months to complete. But he also says liquidating our FTT is just post-exit risk management, learning from Luna. We gave support before, but we won't pretend to make love after divorce. We are not against anyone, but we won't support people who lobby against other industry players behind their backs. Onwards. So this, of course, triggers a lot of concern to see the words Luna in there, and that FTX owns like 99% of the FTT token, and concerns that we'll see what we saw last time, where Luna and UST collapsed on themselves, triggering everything to cascade, right? So that's the real fear that got put out into the market within 24 hours after hitting the 200-day moving average. Just absolutely astonishing to see that happen in there. Of course, it's the big boys, the biggest guys in the entire industry, deciding to have a Twitter war of liquidating assets, triggering fear. I don't know. Take with it what you will. So, I know there's a lot of worries out there. If there's a cascading effect that happens to the FTT token, what will that mean for FTX? This is all new. This all started yesterday afternoon. So I would expect in the coming days, more information will come out about this to have a clearer picture on everything that's going on. But I saw Stefan Huber, or Stephen Huber. Don't kill me for getting it wrong, man. By the way, we already had this little price manipulation game with Is FTX Bankrupt once this year with Coinbase. Can you remember? People panicked. The price went down, and then out of nowhere, BlackRock announced its partnership with Coinbase. This will be a similar game. And I'm sure a lot of you do remember. If you don't remember, there was big concerns on if Coinbase was going to go bankrupt. If you remember the big runs on Coinbase that were happening earlier this year, then the price of Coinbase doubled off the bottom, and BlackRock announced that they're partnering with Coinbase. So are we seeing similar games happening here right now? The thing I don't like about when this type of stuff happens, or it's not that I don't like it, it's just it annoys me to see these types of things happen, that we spread this kind of fear and concerns, and it seems like it's big players who are timing it to make it happen when it happens. Look where it happens at. I mean, you don't touch here since April. You get there, and then you start all the same panic stuff that happened back in here. So, and unfortunately, it's hard for us to have all the information on whether or not are they planning this? Are they doing this on purpose? Are they goofing off? Like Stefan said, is this just a little bit of manipulation happening by the big players at the right time? I mean, you couldn't time it any more perfectly, but either way, do your research on that. Decide whether or not you think there's some existential risk to the cryptocurrency market based on that. I don't have a way to know. I did see that. That stunk when all that happened all at once. Make your best guess. As we've all seen many times, Bitcoin is still just humming along to the same tune of what it's done at its previous bottoms before, still just kind of grinding through in here. at this point. We were talking about the altcoin market last week and how even there, if 2014, 2015 for Bitcoin, here we are reaching to that 200-day moving average at the same time as Bitcoin did back at that time. So one would have to think we're likely going to get through the 200-day moving average at some point. But what does it all scream? It all still screams Wyckoff accumulation. And so you kind of think to yourself, what would that really look like in here if you kind of worked your way up and then wham, right back down to the lows? You'd essentially take out that low right in there. And then that would be your spring as you wait to then be able to go. And while with the height of how high these can go before we head into spring, they can be tricky. A lot of times we usually see that this height will get taken out over here before we go into spring. And then we just start working our way to finally get to our sign of strength and then break our way out of there. As you can see, we got above there on Ethereum Classic back in 2019 and 20. However, you look over here at Ethereum, and Ethereum did not, right? So Ethereum stopped right in here before finally going into its spring. So we've been seeing that a spring phase would eventually come at some point. What is the price level that's going to happen from at that point? It's going to be a difficult guessing game, but definitely, even if we get through the 200-day moving average, picking that point at where a spring could begin at is just remembering that that is the next phase of how this market has behaved the entire time. It's behaved the entire time that there's going to be a spring coming at some point. So if it does, it's just not a surprise. But the thing that happens when a spring does come is we look back to go back to 2020. What happened during this spring? It was like C19 stuff. It was incredibly scary. Will it be a narrative of that magnitude where it's something that is global? Will it be something that is just isolated to the cryptocurrency market like Luna and UST? Or we're seeing the stage start to get set here for FTX and Binance. That's impossible for me to predict what that fear could eventually be. Maybe we get lucky as well. Like we were looking back at 2016 for Ethereum, this nearly year-long correction that happened in here is that this correction structure or this bottoming structure just eventually led to breakouts and go. It'll be very difficult until we actually get there. But the point of all of it is saying bottoming structures, right? We're talking about, is Binance going to try to crash the whole market and cause cascading liquidations by letting go of FTT? Is that going to cause FTT to get margin called on the lucrative way that FTT works? I don't know. But I don't think we're going to set new lows. If we just go based on historical behavior of the cryptocurrency market, we're just trying to find what do bottoming structures look like? Because we can look at the altcoin market, we can look at the indicators and even look at it on giant time frames right in here, right? So we've looked at the weekly time frame stuff a lot in here to talk about, hey, look, even on Bitcoin, anytime you had the 50 and the 100 week actually end up cross themselves like this right here, we also have it on the altcoin market. We had already bottomed. We had already gone through the whole thing. We're already done. We're just working on a bottoming. In this case, Wyckoff accumulation. Notice in this one does not set the new high. Still, bottom was in, did not set a new low over here. But even when we switch to the monthly time frame, we'll take those off. Take a look at the indicators down in here. We can see how the RSI has completely reset itself even on the monthly time frame. All of the euphoria, all of the excess in this market has been washed out. You can look here on the MACD. Anytime we have flipped on the monthly time frame in here, once we get this flip, bottom is in. We have that already occurring. We're working on our second month here on the MACD. So even on the monthly time frame from RSI and MACD, same things are happening in here to indicate bottom, which is the same story for Bitcoin back in 2018 and 19. Once we flipped on the MACD, bottom was in on the monthly time frame. Looking over here to 2015 as well. Once we flipped, bottom was already in. But we're having to play the guessing game of how does the bottom play out. And when we look structurally at how it has behaved up until this point, it's acting just like the Wyckoff accumulation that we noticed for Bitcoin. And we started paying really close attention to it back in June, that the entire price behavior of Bitcoin leading up to this point was setting up for, like we talked about, a boring October. Sure enough, we got just exactly that. We got ourselves a nice boring October coming in here. But now we're getting to this point here of starting to kind of run up a little bit. But the concern about that is that, this is where people start kind of getting excited in the market again, thinking, everything is fine and dandy, but we could lead ourselves into the spring phase of a Wyckoff accumulation. So it doesn't scream that the run has begun. I think it's possible, like we saw with other Wyckoff accumulations, what do you have? You get through it, but then you go into spring, or you get through it and then you go into spring. I could not imagine this being the level that we actually get rejected from in here before going into spring. And I could not imagine new lows getting set in this market, because if they did, you'd have a deviation away from anything that's ever happened for Bitcoin and for the altcoin market that mark bottoms for when bottoms come in, when excess has already been washed out of the market. Whether that's like we talked about in here for the RSI, even on the monthly time frame, anytime RSI has gotten to these levels for Bitcoin, bottom was in on the monthly time frame. Anytime the MACD flipped, bottom was already in. Anytime you had the 50 and the 100 week moving averages cross themselves after a prolonged period of downward price action, the bottom was already in, and the list goes on. We've gone through all of these many times. But it doesn't mean we can't have ourselves a spring, because our price behavior for the last year and a half screams that there would be one. And even the price action currently right now screams that there would be one. And even the price action that is happening here in the altcoin market screams that there would be one, because it has just played out perfectly in here of what we do in here before we end up getting through the 200-day moving average and heading into spring. Last week, we were looking over here at the Ethereum price chart and seeing that, hey, even, the whole correction that we've had in here has mirrored just like this. And if you don't remember, it's actually happening from the same price level as well. For those who recall Bitcoin super cycles and attempting to pick out the top of Bitcoin based on its super cycle because it was following it for the third time, even Ethereum in here on this run up, it paused all out at the same place that it did in its past super cycle. So questions are, hey, is it not going to have a Wyckoff accumulation style bottom, but is it going to break out? And so that's kind of the thing. Just going to have to wait till we get there. We're still right under the 200-day moving average, and will it break out and go? In the end, there's overwhelming evidence of how this cryptocurrency market has behaved in the past to say the bottom is in. If you want to guess differently, by all means, go for it. Nothing is guaranteed in these markets, but you look at all this different data of how bottoms have come in for this market, and we have exhibited every single sign. I haven't found any signs that are different right now that are not the same from the past times that we've had, how oversold we've gotten, moving averages crossing, MACDs, price levels, elapsed time, catalyst, panic, capitulation, on-chain data, everybody screaming for more down. These are all the things that we've had happen at the past bottoms. The biggest question is, what is the bottom going to look like? And we're still in that phase right here underneath the 200-day moving average to see, is Ethereum going to get more of kind of a big push out of there? And if it popped up and say went to 3K or something like that, it'd be pretty optimistic for Ethereum. But as we're right here, right now, I think it would be essentially insane to count our eggs before they've hatched, due to how we've been behaving this whole time and how the altcoin market just so happens to be doing the exact Wyckoff accumulation that we did back then too for Bitcoin in 2015. So kind of the point of all this, obviously we're stalling out here at the 200-day moving average. So we talked about last week, hey, cool, we got a lot of price action happening on Thursday or Friday, but it's like, we're not really there. We're seeing a lot of green, but if we really want to see something significant happening, we actually need a little bit more. And as you can see, we didn't get it. And then, it doesn't sit right with me. Something smells funny about all of it with Binance and with FTX and the timing of it. You guys know it. We talk about it all the time. Things showing up at just when they're supposed to. And when they show up like this from the big players in the market, something doesn't smell right. I'm not sure how to read it properly, but something doesn't smell right on how they timed it. And whether or not it's just trickery, and in a week from now, CZ Binance is going to come out and say, you know what, we've partnered with FTX, with SBF to work on regulations together, and we're now best friends, right? I don't know. Why did you do it right here after 7 months of being below that? The timing of it reeks worse than rotten fish. So this will be our monitoring thing for the coming days and weeks, depending on how long it takes to finally work its way through the 200-day moving average. So long as it does, it's my bias to think that it will. But we'll move on to talk about the XRP price chart, because last week we got a pop-up out of here from about 45 cents to about 50 cents. We could see that here starting out the week, it's starting to kind of take it all back. I see something on here that maybe you recognize it for the OGs of the channel. I see it pretty clearly. You see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with 5 waves within wave 5, heading up to 6 and 7. So while the move has been pretty aggressive, it seems like the bulk of it is over. Then we can kind of assess, what's going to happen after that. But I know it's been moving down pretty quick. But Still, I would guess there is still more in here. Again, look at us. We're on the 15-minute time frame trying to guess what's going to happen over the course of the next couple of hours. But we've gone through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 many times on this channel. It looks awfully similar to that currently right now. So I'm not going to hold my hopes out for anything too crazy to be happening just yet right now, while this structure typically sets one new low in here. I'm going to expect that it will. And of course, it still kind of leaves open the big question out there that we still just continuously have, is whether or not we're going to close out the gap for the sign of strength after Wyckoff accumulation down there between 37 and 39 cents. And still seems very plausible to me. And maybe that's what we just see happen here with XRP, right? Maybe we just see it actually end up continuing to range in here for quite a while we see the altcoin market get through. And then finally, when the spring phase of the market eventually ends up coming, that's that move right in there. But XRP is just not wanting to do that yet. So patience over here. Of course, Bitcoin's been doing the same thing at the same time. So likely just waiting on Bitcoin. But pretty mixed day in the market out there. You can see that on average, the market is up about 0.5% right now, with Bitcoin being one of the ones on the lower end. But, most things on this list, 1 or 2% to the downside, that if they are in the red. Otherwise, we still have some stuff that's pretty green. You have Algo and you have Matic up about 10%, with Dash at about 7 or 8, and several others in the green. Most of the market is in the green today, even though we're just kind of patiently waiting for the market to choose a direction. Remember, this week is likely to be an interesting week. So we got the stock market. It has been bounced all the way back up in here for the last couple of weeks. This week is election week in the United States. So this is called midterm elections in the United States. We have 3 branches of government. You have the presidency, then you have the House of Representatives, and then you have the Senate. The presidency is not up for election during this election period. That happens once every 4 years. However, every 2 years, some seats in the Senate and in the House of Representatives do come up for election. Right now, this is midterm, so we're only going to have the House of Representatives and the Senate come up for election. Currently, the Democrats own all 3 branches of government. They own the House, the Senate, and the presidency. So as we get through this week, we will find out if the Republicans take either one of the branches of the government away from Democrats, or if Democrats maintain them. This is not a political channel. I'm not here to sit here and promote one or the other, but I am letting you know that is happening this week. And it's something we're so anti-political on this channel that I haven't even talked about it leading up to it, but it is this week. This happens every 2 years. And before we know it, we'll be beyond it. But that's this week. We'll get through that, and we'll see how things go. Otherwise, for me, it's going to be about watching the altcoin market cap to see if we can get through the 200-day moving average, and seeing if CZ Binance and SBF from FTX kiss and make up, and otherwise just cheering for a market recovery. But it's been a long week for me. It was nice to have a day off yesterday. As many of you guys know, the Blockchain Backer 702 collection, the NFT digital art collection, was released late Friday night. I have so much respect for all the tech guys out there, because there was a clear tech issue with XLS20 when it came out. It wasn't that there was anything wrong with it. It was just about, how all these platforms had to interact with servers to get things functioning smoothly. And these guys worked 21 hours a day. I complain when I work an 18-hour day. These guys were doing 4 or 5 days in a row of 21 hours and sleeping like 2 or 3 hours at night in order to get these things taken care of and get everything up and running. And the Blockchain Backer 702 collection did get released on Friday night. I've been overwhelmed by the comments that you guys have left on how much you like it. This is something we worked on for a very long time. Some of these have already minted out. Some of them are still available over here on XRP. But it's been incredible to see the support and to finally show these to the world and get them out there. So if you want to check those out, you just head over to on XRP, click on NFT Marketplace. Up at the top, you'll see Blockchain Backer scroll by. You click there. Then right here, you click Mint on Launchpad. And then you'll see the list of them that are still available. And that whole week last week with XLS20 being released and that being released and all that stuff, it was one of the more stressful weeks that I've had in crypto for sure. And the tech guys were definitely stressed out too. But hey, it's running, guys. There's NFTs on the XRP ledger now. That's awesome. So, all right. Welcome to a new week. I hope that you have a wonderful week. I want to thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.